Welcome to our Watch and Learn. I'm Kristina Whitney, a studio educator with Handi Quilter, and today we have Kelly Ashton, our studio manager. We have a special treat for you today. Kelly is going to be showing us how she makes these fabulous bags on the Longarm. Kelly, show us what you've got.
Okay. I love bags. So I hope you can relate with me, but I'm not very good at following those bag patterns. So I know that a lot of you are, but I've found a way to make a bag on a Longarm that's really quick and simple. And I just want to share with you today how to do that. So this is probably one of the first ones I made. It's just a big shoulder bag. And I did probably 95% of it on the Longarm. So
that's
I'm
fabulous.
going to show you how. There's a couple of samples. There's not much quilting on them. I've adjusted the pattern throughout making them, and I've also changed it to fit like your throat space. So it depends on your throat space, the size of the bag that you can make. So I have an infinity, so I can make these bigger bags on the infinity, and the smaller ones I'm working with, we've done on the Amara or been my Avante. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of making the Longarm, or making the bag on the Longarm. Okay?
I'm excited.
All right. So I have just basically 3 fabrics that you can see. And the first one you can see is this black fabric right here. Excuse me. This black fabric right here. And that's the main part there. I'm going to put some quilting. Okay? It's the kind of the foundation of my bag. So I'm going to use the yellow fabric right here. I have. And then I'm going to put soft and stable on the inside. I've used lots of different interfacings. This one's more of just a heavy Pellon interfacing. It's a little floppier. This one has soft and stable, so it holds up a little stiffer.
Okay, so
show
you
us
can
that
just decide
what you want.
Sorry.
No, you can just decide how stiff or kind of floppy you want it to be. You were going to say show the soft and stable?
Yeah, so everybody can see what it is.
This is just an interfacing, but it's almost like a little... I don't know.
It almost looks like sponge.
Yeah. Kind of a little foam.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and then it has a soft end. It's soft and stable. There you go.
Hence the name.
So I have the soft and stable already down on I loaded just, this is just like a muslin because this fabric that's the backing on my throat is not even going to show in the bag anywhere.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter. You can use any kind of fabric. And then what I did on the soft and stable is I stitched a plumb line with the channel locks. And on this machine, I have the electromagnetic channel lock. So I stitched a line straight across there. And now I'm going to line up this solid fabric to that line. And
how do you know what size to cut your fabric in your soft and stable?
So that's a really good question, Kristina. And the size of the soft and stable, I just want it a little bit bigger than the bag.
Okay.
Because I'm going to use it like batting, kind of. So I need it a little bit bigger. Mine was already cut and it's just barely long enough, but we're going to make it work. If you can make it a little bit longer this way, that's probably a good idea. The first important thing you need to do is mark the center. So I have the centers marked here and here. And that center point I'm going to refer to quite a bit while making the bag. Okay. So I'm just going to, we'll speed up some of the quilting so it's not such a long process for you, but I'm just going to baste across here. I'm going to use my channel locks again. So I'm just going to bring up my bobbin thread, needle down, needle up, bring up that bobbin thread. I like to put my needle down and then I'm going to set the horizontal channel lock.
Okay.
And I have my stitches set at 5 stitches per inch. It's just a nice basting. And because I lined up my fabric right to that straight line I did on the soft and stable, I'm pretty confident I'm going to get a square bag. I'm just using my hand to kind of keep any extra like bubbles, puckers in the fabric. And I have all this stuff on here, so I'm probably not doing myself a favor here. I'll look for all of that in a minute. Now I'm just going to switch my channel locks so that they're vertical. And I'm going to smooth this fabric as I go and get my line straight forward. Now, Longarm machines don't love to stitch right left in a straight line. You're not going to do any damage if you do it, but I don't love to do it because my thread usually shreds. So I'm going to move over to the left side of the machine, and I'm going to do the vertical line down. I'm basting the entire thing onto my soft and stable. Move that over in. Oops. All right, Kristina, I have the whole fabric basted in the rectangle all the way across the soft and stable. So I don't have any loose edges. It's all basted down. Okay, and now if you look back at the bag again, I only need to quilt. It depends on how you've cut your bag, but I only need to quilt about 4.5 inches at the top here.
Okay.
So I'm going to just lay my next fabric out and just double check that. And I made this one a little bit smaller, so I'm going to quilt about 5.5 inches.
So Kelly, while you have that measuring tape there, or the ruler, can you tell everybody what size you cut your yellow fabric for the Amara
that's a great
frame?
idea. Let me see if I can find the measuring tape. So I have my measuring tape, so I'm going to give you some measurements of what I'm doing here today. I'm working on the Amara, so I have the 20-inch throat space. So, and I've cut the length of the fabric 36 inches, and I've cut the width 16. So I have, it's a 20-inch throat space, but I'm giving myself a little wiggle room there. So
that's about the widest that you can make a bag on this frame.
On this frame. Okay. Now, if I were working on the gallery frame with the Forte or the Infinity, I've got more throat space. So you can do it according, use your throat space and then take off about 4.5 inches and you should be fine. Okay, now I was measuring what I have here, and I'm gonna quilt about 5.5 inches on each end. So I'm just gonna make a mark with my blue water-soluble pen at 5.5 inches so that I know how far I'm gonna quilt on both ends.
So if you quilt a little bit more than that, it's okay, but you just need to make sure you fill that whole area.
You can quilt more than that, but that's pretty much all that's going to show.
Okay.
So you can quilt all you'd like. So we'll do some little speed up, but I'm going to put my stitches at 10 stitches per inch. And just to kind of be time efficient, I'm going to use my electromagnetic channel locks.
Lovely.
And I'm just going to do some straight lines for fun. Okay. All right. So here we go on the stitching. Okay, I got one end done, so I'm going to go to the other end and do the same with the channel locks. This is fun to do it this fast. Okay, I've got my horizontal lines on the ends of my fabrics. Now, I know I said that I don't like to stitch from right to left in a straight line, but you can generally do a 5.5, 10-inch line without much of a problem. So I did do that. Okay, now this is my pocket of the bag. Look back at this black bag. This is the pocket. This is this part right here. And I do have, on this one, I have an extra color, and I do on this one too. But some of these, I just used the same fabric all the way around. It's fine. But what I did, because I didn't want any, it just was easy, I just made a tube. So I took the fabric, I added, where's the camera? I added an extra piece right there, but this is a big tube. That's all it is. And I have pressed it so that this gray part is right in the middle, because that's going to be the bottom of my bag.
Okay.
I didn't really want this cute polka dot to be the bottom of my bag, because if you set it down on the ground, it's just going to really look dirty. So I just, personal preference, put the gray fabric on the bottom so that I have a bottom of my bag that will stay kind of looking clean.
Okay, how do you determine how big to make that tube?
So that's also just kind of your personal choice, how big you want your pockets. I'll tell you how big I did mine.
Okay.
Okay, so this one measures 26.5 inches. So remember, the yellow fabric was 36 inches. This one is 26.5. That's after I have the seam and everything. And it's double, so it's that big circle. So I had 50, probably 3 inches, sewed a 1/2 inch seam and made the circle. So I'm just setting it right on top there. I could even take a couple of pins. And I can just pin down nowhere near I'm going to stitch. I don't want the fabric to move, but I do not want to hit those pins with my machine. So I'm just going to put a couple of pins in there to hold it in place. And I'll stop and let you see where I've put those pins.
So the mark that you made on the interfacing, that center mark, you're lining the center of your tube up with that line also,
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
So it's centered perfectly right in there. Okay. Now I know I'm going to use, when I put my bag sides together, I'm going to do a 1/2 inch seam. So I'm just going to stitch this down a little less than a 1/2 inch. So it's going to be hidden in the seam. Okay. So I'm just going to put my channel lock on, maybe about 1/4 of an inch. And I'm doing a regular size stitch here, just this 10 stitches per inch. And I can even do a little back stitch. Forward, back. Did you know your machine has a back stitch? All right. Now I'm just going to tack this down on the sides. And I use my hand forward and back. Now, don't stitch your fingers, but I do go slow and make sure that I don't get any puckers, and I can pull back or I can push forward. Sorry, this is a flannel and it's given me a little bit of a stretch. So I'm getting a little bit of a bubble. So I'm just trying to work that bubble in. Okay. Back on this end, do forward and back. Now I barely caught that on that end, but I've caught it enough that I will be able to catch it in my seam. I'll take a little bit wider one at the bottom. You know, every stitch you take, it kind of pulls your fabric in a little bit, so you do have to be making those adjustments. And I didn't make a very much of an adjustment there. Okay.
So I notice you have your ruler base on. Is that helpful while you're doing this? Or does it make a difference?
It's just my personal preference. I like to have it on there. It helps me, but it's certainly not required. So once again, I have my channel locks on. I'm just stitching straight across. I know I'm probably driving some of you crazy because my fingers are close. Don't stitch your fingers. But I want to make sure that I keep this fabric right where I want it. Okay. So that is stitched on. Okay, I'm going to do one more thing with my long arm stitching, and it's just something I feel like it helps keep the bottom of the bag flat. So let me see if I can find one that you can see it good. Well, I know this isn't showing up, but I did vertical straight lines across the bag where it sits flat on the ground. I just kind of I thought that would help it sit flat.
Oh, okay.
So, and the other thing it does is it stops your pocket, because these are now my pocket.
Oh.
If I don't have a line here in the center, my pocket would go all the way underneath the bag, and then I really would lose my keys. So I have to stop that pocket. So I'm going to go right to the center. I have the center marked, remember? And I'm just going to, when I did the stitching on the sides here, the straight lines, I didn't measure them. I did just random widths. So they're not all the same. I'm going to do about 3 inches each direction to give me the base of the bag.
Okay.
And I'm going to use a measuring tool so that I can kind of keep them a 1/2 inch pretty consistent so that I know my base is the same. So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm right in the center. I'm just going to do a vertical seam right down the center. Don't stitch your ruler. Okay, and then I want to move it a 1/2 inch, one direction.
So if you had the Pro Stitcher, you could just use the measure tool.
The ruler, right, you could. The measuring. And I'm just going to keep going until I get 3 inches both directions. So bear with me just a second.
You could also maybe use one of the templates or rulers that we use
Sure,
for
I could
ruler work.
easily hold one right here, and that would give me that. It's good you can't see that these aren't perfectly exact.
It's going to be the bottom of the bag,
It's
right?
the bottom of the bag, and I'm actually measuring to give me the 3 inches. So.
Okay, so we've talked about measuring with mark, or not with mark, with the measure tool and Pro Stitcher. We're using templates. What foot could you use to do this?
Yeah, all I'd have to do is put on the echo foot, the 1/2 inch echo foot.
So you could use a 1/2 inch echo foot or the 1/2 inch square foot.
Oh, I could do the square foot too. Oh, we have so many options. Huh. You got a lot of things to choose from now. I was making it simple. Just get the electromagnetic channel off. I've lost track of where I'm at. Let me measure. Okay, so I have one more stitch I'm going to do. I'm going 3.5 inches. So if I said 3, I changed my mind. Okay, now I just need to go the same, the other direction.
If you didn't want to do straight lines on this part, do you think it would work just doing some kind of a quilting design?
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
I think I would want a straight line to stop the pocket.
Okay.
Like I don't like to lose things in there. So I would want a straight line to stop it. If I had a fun little curve, I might
maybe do like the side lines and then fill in that part.
Yeah, all kinds of options.
Okay.
There's no rules.
That's
just
my
have
favorite
some
kind
fun.
of quilting. No rules.
You just have some fun. We're almost there. I'm going to measure now and just make sure I'm the same distance. Oh, got one more to go. Okay. Oh, one more. I took off my glasses and now I need them. That doesn't look like it's into. All right, there we go. All that quilting is done at this point. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do, I can add the straps right here.
Oh.
So here's my strapping fabric, or not fabric, my strapping, what do you call this?
Tape?
Strapping tape?
No, that's that white stuff that you put on
You
boxes.
can just get this at the hobby store. And
Kind of like a twill tape almost.
yeah. Tell you how much I bought. It's 36.
Could you make your own straps out of fabric?
And I buy 3 yards, but you could do any kind of length. Could you make your own straps out of fabric? Yes. This one I did. You see those straps on there? I just took the pocket fabric and extended the straps like that.
So the width is about an inch, inch and a half.
Yeah, it's an inch.
And you said you bought 3 yards of it? Okay.
Yep. What I'm going to do is just find the exact center. A brilliant friend of mine showed me how to do that after struggling. Okay, so we're going to do the center. And I know the center, and I'm going to put this in 4 inches from the side. So we're going to go, that makes it so much easier. So I'm going to put this right on the 4 inches, right in the center. And so I'm going to measure that and put the pin right there in the center. And then on this side as well, I'm going to go in 4 inches. Now I have to cross the webbing on this side. So, but because I pinned the center over there, I still should be right at the center.
Do you ever sew those pieces together before you put it on?
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
You sure could. I don't. I
Okay.
guess the question was, do I? I know I haven't. I just do them
Okay.
like this. And then I just need to pin them out straight. You can check the 4 inches. But what we're going to do when we sew them down is we're going to use the channel lock. So it's going to keep them really straight. Actually, if I just start in the center and channel lock out each direction, it's going to keep them. First, I got to take my channel locks off, and I can come right over here to where I start.
And you made sure that the webbing wasn't twisted or anything.
Right, Kristina, I did.
Okay.
Okay, we're just laid it out like it's going to go on that bag, but this is double, so it's a little tricky to stitch over it. So
if you have a hard time getting that foot over, you can lift up the hopping foot.
Yep.
Put over the top.
Yeah, your hopping foot hops. So I'll lift it up and bring it over and set it right down on there. And I'm going to just put my needle down to make sure I have it right where I want it. Get my threads out of the way. And then I'll put my channel lock on the right way, the horizontal channel lock. And I'm just going to stitch out to the edge of the pocket. And I'm just holding this. I have a lot of things in the way. Sorry about that. I'm just going to hold this out straight. Now, when I get to the corner right here, I'm going to do a little square or a little rectangle so that I'm really stabilizing the handle at that point. So I'm just going to go over it, and I'm going to go over that rectangle a couple of times, and I'm going to do an X in it because that looks cool. And then I'm going to put the channel lock back on and go back the other direction. Now I am stitching right to left, so I'm just hoping it doesn't break my thread. And I'm right here in the center where I crossed those, the webbing. So I'm going to actually do a little rectangle right here as well,
Okay.
so that it stays in place. And I did take the webbing and kind of melted the end of it, so I don't have a nice raw fraying edge. Okay, now I just have to sew in this direction. Okay, Kristina, my handlebars are stitched down. They're stabilized at the corners. Besides the webbing, I just wanted to point out that you could make your own handles. Like this is just this fabric that I put the tube, I just made a little tube, you know, like you would apron strings or anything, and just made a little tube, turned it inside out, and made my own handles for this one. So you can use the fabric that you have and do that if you don't have access to the webbing.
You can make really chunky handles if you wanted.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, I'm not finished yet. Now I can cut this bag out halfway, flip it over, and use my channel locks and do the side seams. To do these side seams, it's really thick with 2 layers of soft and stable. I don't need to adjust the height of my hopping foot, but if I put on the glide foot, then it just zips across there without any problem at all. It's just really easy to slide across. So I'm going to put the glide foot on. It's the glide 2 foot. I'm just going to loosen that, take off my regular foot. Just a reminder, when you're using the glide foot, it's a plastic to metal connection. So when you're tightening this, we're going to tighten until it's tight. I'm going to wiggle it, make sure it's on there good. But I don't want to do the extra, just tighten it. I just need to make sure it's tight. Don't crank it, okay? Gotta move all of this stuff out of the way. And I'm gonna come over to this side here. I'm gonna take these little pointed scissors. I'm just gonna cut across the top. I'm gonna cut down, right down the side, as straight as I can. And I do have that straight line that I stitched against, right, just barely past center point. I have to go past center just a tiny bit. Okay, now I just have to fold this bag over like this and line up my ends. Make sure I'm right. Oh, I didn't line up the end. Go to the end. I'm like, why is that not lining up? I wasn't to the middle. Okay, I might have to raise that foot again to get it right over there. And I would like it to be 1/2 inch. If I used the 1/2 inch square foot, it would give me my exactly 1/2 inch, but this much bulk, I just really like to have the glide foot. So I'm going to put that down, bring up my bobbin thread. I have the bobbin thread. Okay, put on your channel locks. Putting on my horizontal channel locks, which that channel lock, just a reminder, it keeps my seam perfectly straight, horizontally or vertically, whichever way I have it hooked. A little back stitch, cut my thread. There you go, batting scissors cut thread well too. Whatever you have close by. You can tell I need more than a table by my side when I'm quilting, don't I? Measure your 1/2 inch. I gotta pull up the bobbin thread. Don't forget, you can lift that foot to put that up on top of that bulky fabric.
And you're quilting through several layers of fabric right now.
Yes, I am. Put on your channel lock. Do my back stitch. Okay. I'm going to cut off the rest of the bag and turn it right side out, and we'll show you the bag that we got.
I'm excited. Let's see it.
Okay.
With my luck, I'd cut through the handles at this point.
We're moving them way out of the way so we don't.
Can I just say how much I love those batting scissors?
You can, because they're one of my favorite tools as well. Well, I guess you don't have to say all my favorite tools, but they are one of my favorite tools as well.
Mine too.
Okay, so the inside of my bag, it's okay, it's fine. But let's see what it looks like from the outside.
Ooh, the big reveal.
Yeah.
Look how cute that is.
Can you make a bag like that? Okay, we're not quite finished. I did tell you that I did 95% of it. I might have stretched just a little bit because we have a couple of things left to do. And one is, I really like box corners. Do you know what box corners are?
I do.
So when on the outside, they look like this. They give you a nice flat surface. If I don't do that, I just have this like pointed surface. I don't have a flat surface to set my bag on. So I do want to do some box corners. You can do it on your Longarm machine, but really it's nice to be able to just do it at your domestic machine. So I'm going to turn it back around. Just had to show you what it looked like. And I'll show you how you make the box corners. Okay, I actually have also made this at my domestic machine. And what this is it's a lining, because I like pockets on the insides of my bags. So the yellow fabric I used initially, I made another piece exactly the same.
Okay.
And I took a 1/2 inch seams on the edge, but before I turned it, I put some pockets on here. Okay, so on that side, I've got that pocket.
So this is just an added bonus.
This is just if you want. So, and then I also put a pocket on this side that I could put pens in. I put some straight lines so I could put pens down in there. Okay. All right. And then you can see that I did the box corners on here as well. So I want to show you how to do the box corner. This is another sample. So I've just done the side seams. So all I have to do is take the end of my, so this is the pocket I've got, right? I'm going to take the corners of the pocket and I'm just going to fold them so they make a nice triangle.
Okay.
Okay. And if you can tell on this one, I already have it sewn. I used a measuring tape and I measured 2 inches up the seam. So my triangle from the point to my line is 2 inches. Okay. What that gives me straight across is 4 inches. So I'll get a 4-inch base.
Okay.
If I measure 2 inches up and draw a line, now you can see, I'll hold it so that you can see it right there. And then if I'm 2 inches from point to line, I get a 4-inch base. Okay. So now inside my pocket, or I can just slip this inside the bag, but I'm going to do the same thing on the bag before I turn it. I'm going to fold my points like this. It's really bulky. We have the stitch machine. It's industrial straight stitch, and it easily sews through this layer. So I think most domestic machines should sew through it the same way, but if you need a domestic machine that sews through more stuff, that machine will, the industrial stitch machine will sew through all these layers, no problem. But I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to measure 2 inches from point, and that's going to give me, I'll draw a straight line and do those box corners. Okay.
Okay.
You're just about finished. I know these aren't sewn yet, but I'm going to slip it in here to show you how it works. I just slipped my lining right inside there. It fits just perfectly. And then all I do to finish it is I sew a binding on just the top edge. And I just put that binding on and flip it around and I sew it by machine and I'm done with the bag. And I know we sped some of it up, but it really only took us less than an hour to make this bag.
Mm-hmm. So I'm seeing right now a benefit to stopping the handle down at the edge of the pocket rather than taking it and sewing all the way to the top.
Good point.
Because then you wouldn't be able to get your binding on.
Yeah. Good point. See, there was a reason. There was madness to my reason to my madness. So I'm going to show you one other bag really quick before I let you go, because the Longarm can be used for so much fun. This bag, these little bags. Okay,
those are
They're
fun.
just fun little bags. So all I did was take a jelly roll strip and sewed it all together. This was actually a junior jelly roll, so it wasn't quite as big as some of them. But I sewed that together. We quilted it across the top of it, and then I've cut it into strips. And then all you have to do, I'm losing everything.
Something fell down in the handy hammock.
Oh,
Is it a little bag?
yeah. That's why we have a handy hammock to catch everything,
Yes.
right? So you could put the zipper anywhere you want in here. You can put it right in the middle. You could do some box corners. You could do a lot of fun things, but I just like to put it kind of near the top. And this is just a little bag I take with me with all my tools. I can put it in my suitcase. It's just a fun little quilted bag. And the backing of this fabric does show. So whatever you put on the back, you will see it on the inside of your bag. But that's so easy and quick. I did a little box corner on this as well, so it would sit flat. But hope that you've found something that might inspire you to try at home today. The Longarm, it's amazing to quilt quilts with, right? But there's a lot of other fun things we can do on it as well. So give your hand and try a bag.
Yeah. I am really excited. I think as soon as we're done filming, I am going to go play on the machine.
Yes.
So thank you, Kelly. That was great. For those of you watching, take pictures of these bags that you're creating and send them in to us. We love to see your projects. So thank you for joining us, and join us again next week for our Watch and Learn. And make sure that you like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. Have a great day.
This one's really fun to play with, so let's take a look down here and see what we can do with this. You can see I've stitched out in this purple thread our diamond shape, so I'm going to show you how I stitched that. It does have some overstitching. If you're concerned about the thread buildup, you can use a finer thread, or you can cut your threads and just shift the ruler and just do the diamond. I'm a little bit lazier with my quilting, and so I tend to do overstitching to get to my next place. So I started here in the corner, and I went around and I stitched a full diamond. And actually, I'm going to switch out rulers so that you can see what I did. I marked with painter's tape where I needed to stop. Okay, so I did the full diamond shape, stitched over that same line, and I stopped when I got to my painter's tape. Then I shifted my ruler over, however far I wanted, bumped it up against my foot, made sure it was lined up within my seam, and you've got these straight lines that you can use to make sure that the ruler is going straight. So once I had the ruler in proper position, I stitched down, stitched the whole diamond, and actually I stopped right there and then back stitched up to here, again stopping when I got to my tape. Shifting again, stitching the diamond, stopping here, and over stitching. So there's lots of tricks that you can use with your rulers. I've got the handy grip on this one so that it stays stationary. And then after I finished stitching out all of my row, I went back and I did some fills in a different color thread. So it just gives it a different look. So you can compare it between this section here that has this ribbon candy and just some curves in the center here, compared to just using the ruler. So that's a challenge to you to try to expand on what you're doing. Don't feel limited, but do whatever feels natural to you at that point. Okay, let's look at this next section here. For this one, I'm only going to use part of the ruler. So another thing with rulers is you don't have to use the full shape. So I'm going to line this up so that my points are right on my seam. I would have my needle down right here, bump the ruler up against that foot, and then I stitched up. And I'm going to add a little fill right here. I'm going to do a teardrop shape with the ruler still in place, stopping when I get back up to the top, and stitching down. Here I'm going to shift the ruler just a little bit just to get it out of my way, do another teardrop shape, and then position the ruler for the next section. So again, lining up with my seam, oops. I'm going to stitch up, do a little teardrop, and shift down. So here's a little tip for this one. If you are doing a border and this size shape is not going to fit and you need to lengthen it out a little bit, this is a good place where you can lengthen it out. You can stitch up, do some kind of a little shape, shifting it over just a little bit, and then stitching down. Again, do a little shape, shift it just a little bit, and then you can continue on. So that can help lengthen out that border design to make it fit within your border. Okay, let's look at this one right here. This was really fun. I like doing this one. I had a larger border that I could play in. I didn't have to be limited to just go one direction. So what I did is I put my ruler on an angle, stitched around the ruler, stopping here, rotating, and I was just random on this. I didn't use any markings really. I just played with it, stitched the next one, and then I backtracked over stitching to get down here, flip it again, stitch around, a little over stitching. Oh, I overstitched all the way to that one. Whew. Okay, and then the next one around. You'll notice on this one that I did some echoing around. So this ruler, it's a diamond shape, but you also have a straight edge on here. So I was able to just take the straight edge, line it up on the stitch line that I already stitched, and stitch 1/4 of an inch away. Because your hopping foot is that 1/4 of an inch, so you don't even have to measure anything. Okay? Rulers are fun when you have to put them on uncomfortable positions, but it's doable. Play with it, get used to it, try different designs. Again, this one I added a little fill in here just to make it look a little different and between the two. Okay, let's move. Oh, we've got one more design right here. I forgot about this one. This one again, I used half the ruler, shifted it over half the ruler, and then I went back and I did the same thing, just offsetting it by by 1/4 of an inch. So I lined up the edge of the ruler with my previous stitched line, made sure I've got my 1/4 of an inch so that I can hit my seam, and then I stitched out my next line. Shifting the ruler over, stitched the second line, and then I repeated the same thing a 3rd time. So that gives it that different look there. Okay, let's actually stitch with this ruler and learn some tips on this one. First thing I'm going to do is move my machine into position, bring up my bobbin thread. Ooh, tried to run away from me. Then with my needle still in the up position, I'm going to take the ruler, and this slit right here is going to slide right over that foot, and that's how I get to the center. The needle has to be in the up position for that trick to work. Okay, so I'm wanting to fit this design, or this diamond within my border. So I've got 1/4 of an inch that I can do to hit that seam perfectly, or I can move it up just a little bit if I want to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. So I'm going to give myself just a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, do my tie off, and then I'm ready to stitch. Okay, when you get to a point, make sure that you pause, shift your hand, and you'll notice that I don't have any pressure on this side. So I might move my hand just to give myself a little bit more control there. So I'm going to walk my hand a little bit, holding that side of the ruler down. Okay? You don't want that to flip up and get caught in there. Now I'm going to continue coming down. Little pause there. And I'm back to where I started. If I want to continue that on, I'm just going to travel back over. And now I'm in position to shift the ruler and do another diamond. With this design, it's important if you're going to be traveling over the same line that you have handy grip on. So you'll notice that I actually moved the ruler just slightly, and I didn't stitch perfectly on that line. If I'd had handy grip on my ruler, it would have stayed in place better. Okay, so that is our diamond template, and you can do amazing things with this. Think outside the box. You can even do this side of the ruler instead of this side of the ruler if you have a larger border. Play around with it and have fun.